At dinner, Mom slid a white envelope across the table to my sister. $150,000 for her new house. Dad didn't blink. He said, almost kindly, "We back winners." The room stalled, forks midair, smiles cracking like thin ice. I didn't cry. I folded my napkin, stood, and walked out. On the porch, the night smelled like dishwater and pine. I promised myself I would never ask them to value me again. 2 years later, Lila would slam her brakes at the end of my drive and call our father, voice shaking. But that day was still a bruise. I drove east through Aurora's streetlights to my apartment and watched my phone blink with messages I didn't open. The silence felt new, sharp, almost clean. It wasn't the first time their love had come with terms. When I was 12, I built a suspension bridge out of wire and drinking straws for the state science fair. It held a full textbook. First place. I remember standing on the gym stage and scanning the front row. 2 empty seats. They were in Fort Collins cheering for Lila at her pageant. That night, I set my medal on the coffee table. Dad glanced once and turned up the TV. "Strange girl," he muttered. Mom stroked Lila's hair under the living room lights. That splinter stayed. I worked nights to cover tuition while they paid Lila's outright. I graduated in steel and wind and geometry. Dad texted, "Still renting?" The last thread snapped at dinner. I packed, left the Springs, and chose quiet over pleading. In the morning, I drew a single line in my sketchbook, the outline of a small house and a way forward. Losing my job came like bad weather, announced, then unstoppable. March, gray with snow. I'd hit every deadline, yet my name sat in the middle of the layoff list, black as a period. Outside, the cold made the paper crackle in my fist. I walked until the city thinned, and the fear in my throat softened into air. The next weeks blurred. Coffee gone cold, rejection emails, savings draining like a slow leak. One afternoon, I ducked into a tired cafe called Merritt's Corner. Chipped tables, buzzing lights, the smell of burned espresso. The owner, a silver-haired man with paint on his knuckles, peered at me. "You're Nora Hale, the engineer?" "Used to be," I said. He nodded. "I've got $1,000 and a place that's dying. Can you make it breathe?" It wasn't enough, but it was something. I sketched a new flow, rewired fixtures, sanded counters, wrapped the tiny room in warmth. Reclaimed wood, mirror, glass to pull light, 3 pendant bulbs that fell like moons. When we were done, Merritt stood in the middle, eyes wet. "You gave it a pulse." A neighborhood blog ran a photo the next week. Me in paint-splattered jeans. Overnight, my inbox filled. Small shops, tired bungalows, a florist who wanted her doorway to feel like spring. I said yes, and said yes again. In Golden, on a brick bungalow with a spine-sick foundation, I met Cal Whitaker, a structural engineer with steady hands and a quiet center. We measured and argued kindly and worked in hush. Over late noodles, he asked, "You ever want to build the kind of home that feeds itself?" My heart startled. I'd drawn that once, in secret. "Every day," I said. "Then let's do it." We named it Hearth, a 600-square-foot off-grid cabin above the Oregon coast. A widower sold the lot. "Make it live," he said. We slept in a tent, brewed coffee, and worked until our hands split. Solar on the roof, a rain tank under the deck, barnwood planed smooth. Cal read load tables by headlamp. I drew a porch toward the sea. The wind was cruel. We kept going. 10 months later, the cabin stood. I posted one photo. "Built this with my own 2 hands." And slept. By morning, the post had flown. Clients, reporters. A path I hadn't known to ask for. Tires squealed. A BMW stopped by the gate. Lila stepped out, phone to her ear. "Dad, come now," she breathed, then saw me. "You live here?" I nodded. "I built here." They arrived minutes later. My father walked the porch. "Where did the money come from?" he said, tapping a beam like it might confess. I set my gloves on the rail. "From what you never invested in, my work, every slight earned interest." Mom's voice shook. "We wanted what's best." "You wanted the easiest story," I said. Cal moved beside me. "She did this," he said. Something changed in my father's face, anger then shame. Was this to punish us? "No," I said, "to free me." They left with the wind. A week later, an envelope arrived. A letter. I didn't respond. I planted a sapling by the porch. That evening, Cal opened a walnut box, a ring. "Nora Hale," he said. "Build the rest with me." I laughed. "Only if we draw the plans together."